Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name's VinPF, and on today's episode we're going back to another Heroes and Heretics bottling, and this is their first foray into kind of the peat world. This one's called the Smoke and Glory. I think this is going to be the start of a new range called Smoke and Glory, where they cover single cask offerings from kind of exceptional whiskies. And in this case, we've got something which I think is quite special, and that's, getting the pronunciation as close to possible right as I can, the Ledaig. Now I know that some people say Ledaig, but I'm given to believe it's acceptable to say Ledaig or Ledaig, something like that. But the D in this title is a ch. That's the key bit in this thing. Not an easy word to say, but this is from the Tobermory distillery on the Isle of Mull, and they released their kind of smoky elements to it under the Ledaig brand. Quite interesting, I think. It's get two different types of whiskey out of the same distillery, different brand names, and trying them side by side, which obviously I'm not doing today, but if you ever get the opportunity to do that, it's very interesting. Now, I'll give you a few bits of information about this whiskey itself before we actually get into the tasting notes, because one of the best things about the Heroes and Heretics brand is that they put all the information on here, and that's what I like. I like that sort of thing. So this is a 13-year-old Ledaig, however you want to say it. So it was distilled in 2007, bottled this year, 2020, at time of recording. Tobermory, Ledaig, and this is a first fill ex-bourbon hogshead. Now this is bottle 218 of 276, only 276 of these around. Cask number, if you're interested in that sort of thing, is 800022 and 53%. All things that we love to hear. This is a single cask offering. That's something that's quite important to notice. Now this thing is expensive, it's £100, but the value is there, I believe. Yeah, we're talking about, this is a 700ml bottle. A lot of the kind of independently bottled Ledaigs are like half litres, so you have to kind of equate that into your maths when you're working out if this thing is for you or not. But before the outset, obviously this is going to be a stonking peat whiskey. So if that's not for you, you're probably not going to be interested. But if that is interesting to you, then stick around. Let's get into the actual whiskey in the No Nonsense Whiskey glass, shall we? On the nose then. Now, as predicted, this is a stonkingly peated whiskey. Probably not the most peated whiskey in the world. I'm not sure about what ppms we're talking about here. But it's not a big, bold, ashy peat. This is a kind of like a briny peat. You know, we get a kind of brininess from like Talisker, that sort of thing. But this is way more kind of smoke than you would get off a Talisker. You'd be forgiven for thinking this was like a kind of deep Isla. I'd be heading down the roads of like a Kilhoman or an Ardbeg or something like that if I was doing this blind tasting and I was being misled. I don't try many of these Ledaigs, but I've actually got the 18-year-old. You probably can't see it, but just here I've got the 18-year-old batch 3 ready to review, which I'll probably be covering in early January. So it's that briny peat, like I said. Not ashy at all, but there's this huge kind of element of barbecue to it as well. This kind of burnt wood with the kind of meat cooking on top of that barbecue. Really nice. You get lost in this nose. Let's try on the palate. Oh, wow. There's a lot going on there. So, let's try and pick this apart. There's a heavy amount of spice to this. A lot of peppery spice, which just keeps going on into the finish. Skipping ahead a little bit. But this kind of smokiness comes through. It's not... I mean, it is a heavy peat, but it's not like a kind of really dirty, earthy peat. This is a kind of barbecue meats kind of smokiness coming through it. Lots of burnt wood. There is a touch of ashiness at the back end. Not a lot. It's not like, if you've tried Ledaig, which is like serious ash, that is, kind of medicinal ashiness. It's not like that at all. It's more of that kind of live smoke, where if you're standing next to a bonfire with some meat cooking on it or something like that, like a barbecue-y bonfire thing, and you're kind of, you're breathing in that smoky air. That's the kind of vibe we're going for here. Now, the finish is huge, but it's mostly the kind of pepperiness. I'm quite used to my peat these days. Big fan of the peat, so I wouldn't say it's overly peaty. That's kind of my thing. But I choose my words very carefully, because this is not a kind of leap into the peat world peated whiskey. If you're looking for a bridging whiskey, I'm sure you would enjoy this if you like peat at all. But I wouldn't want this to be your first foray into peat, because I wouldn't want to put you off. It's really beautiful, lovely, lovely whiskey. Beautiful peat going on. And I think if those words that I'm saying here in the last sort of few minutes, if those words have really piqued your interest, and this is going to be something that you're going to be interested in for sure. Now, as I said, I mean, it's £100. It's expensive whiskey, but the value is there versus other things you're going to be getting. Obviously, you can get some core range whiskies for a bit cheaper, but they're a lower ABV. If you want to see this distillery in this higher ABV spectrum, this is kind of 53%, then this is the way to go. This kind of independently bottled direction. And for me, I think it's excellent value and well worth your time if you've been interested in that sort of kind of wordage that I've been talking about today.